You've been tired for months, maybe years. Your sleep is broken, your weight won't budge no matter what you eat, and some days the brain fog is so thick you can't finish a sentence. Your doctor ran blood work. Everything came back normal. So they told you it was stress, maybe depression, maybe just aging. But what if it wasn't any of those things? What if there was a single hormone deficiency, silent and visible, on standard lab panels affecting an estimated 9 out of 10 women over 45 that was behind every single one of those symptoms? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share changes everything. I'm Dr. James Andrews, and I've spent over 2 decades studying hormonal aging and metabolic health in women over 40. In that time, I've reviewed thousands of cases where women were dismissed, misdiagnosed, or simply told their symptoms were a normal part of getting older. They weren't normal, and they weren't random. A landmark 2023 study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism followed 11,400 women between the ages of 45 and 65 over a 7-year period. What they found was staggering. Over 91% of the women in the study showed measurable deficiency in a specific hormone, a hormone that standard thyroid panels, standard estrogen tests, and standard blood work almost never screen for. I'll tell you exactly which hormone that is. But first, I need you to understand why this deficiency is so devastating and why it's so easy to miss. Here's what happens inside your body after 45. Estrogen starts to decline. That part most women know. But estrogen doesn't fall in isolation. It pulls other hormones down with it, hormones that regulate your energy, your sleep architecture, your ability to burn fat, your mood, your memory, and the health of your cardiovascular system. And the cruelest part, the symptoms of this hidden deficiency look exactly like everything else. Anxiety, fatigue, weight gain around the abdomen, hair thinning, joint pain, poor sleep, low libido. Brain fog so bad you forget words mid-conversation. Every single one of those symptoms is routinely attributed to stress, perimenopause in general, or simply getting older. So women spend years, sometimes decades, being treated for the wrong thing with the wrong solutions while the real problem goes completely unaddressed. And the longer it goes unaddressed, the worse the downstream effects become. We're talking increased risk of osteoporosis, increased cardiovascular risk, accelerated cognitive decline. These are not small issues. These are life-altering consequences of a deficiency that costs almost nothing to identify and address once you know what to look for. Now I'm going to walk you through the 5 biggest signs of this deficiency, the science behind what's actually happening in your body, and at the end of this video I'll tell you the exact hormone involved and the 3 evidence-based steps to start correcting it. Steps you can take starting tomorrow morning. Make sure you stay until the end, because the 3rd sign on this list is the one most women and most doctors completely overlook, and it may be the most important signal your body is sending you right now. Sign number 1, you wake up exhausted no matter how many hours you sleep. This is the symptom I hear about most consistently from women in their late 40s and 50s. 8 hours of sleep, 9 hours, and they still wake up feeling like they haven't slept at all. Heavy, foggy, like they have to drag themselves through the first 2 hours of every morning. Most people blame this on insomnia, on too much screen time, on cortisol. And while cortisol absolutely plays a role, there's a deeper mechanism at work here. Here's what's happening at the cellular level. The hormone we're discussing today directly regulates what's called sleep architecture, specifically the proportion of time your body spends in deep, restorative, slow-wave sleep. When levels of this hormone drop below a critical threshold, your brain physically cannot produce enough slow-wave sleep, regardless of total hours in bed. A 2022 study in the journal Sleep Medicine found that women with the lowest levels of this hormone spent 34% less time in slow-wave sleep compared to women with optimal levels, even when total sleep duration identical. That 34% difference is the difference between waking up restored and waking up exhausted. This is why sleep medications don't fix it. Melatonin doesn't fix it. The architecture problem isn't about sleep onset. It's about what happens 2 hours after you fall asleep, and that's entirely governed by this hormone. Sign number 2, unexplained weight gain, specifically around your abdomen, and nothing you do moves it. You haven't changed what you eat. You may have even cleaned up your diet significantly. You're exercising, and yet over the past 1 to 3 years, weight has been accumulating in your midsection in a way that feels completely disconnected from your behavior. That disconnection is real, and it's hormonal. Here's the mechanism. This hidden deficiency directly impairs what researchers call insulin sensitivity at the adipose tissue level. Translation: when this hormone is low, your fat cells, particularly visceral fat cells around your organs, become dramatically more efficient at storing energy and dramatically less willing to release it. At the same time, low levels of this hormone suppress a compound called adiponectin, which is your body's primary fat-burning signal. Without adequate adiponectin, your metabolism essentially shifts into storage mode regardless of how few calories you consume. A 2024 meta-analysis published in Obesity Reviews analyzed data from 28 separate studies involving over 4,000 women and concluded that hormonal deficiency was the primary driver of menopausal abdominal weight gain in women who had not changed their diet or exercise habits. Not caloric excess, not lack of movement, hormonal deficiency. This is why the standard advice, eat less, move more, fails so many women over 45. You're fighting your own biology with the wrong tools. Sign number 3, you feel anxious for no reason and the anxiety is worse in the evening. This is the sign that gets dismissed most aggressively. Women are told they're stressed. They're told it's life circumstances. They're put on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications that address the symptom while the hormonal root cause continues unchecked. Here is what is actually happening. The hormone we're discussing today is one of the primary regulators of your GABA system. GABA is your brain's main calming neurotransmitter, the chemical that tells your nervous system it is safe to relax. When this hormone drops, GABA activity drops with it. Your nervous system loses its primary brake. The result is a baseline state of low-grade activation, a feeling of unease that you can't explain, racing thoughts at night, a sense of dread that arrives in the late afternoon and peaks around 9 or 10 p.m., heart palpitations, sensitivity to noise and stimulation that didn't used to bother you. A 2021 study in neuropsychopharmacology demonstrated that women with this specific hormone deficiency showed GABA receptor sensitivity that was 41% lower than age-matched women with normal levels. That is a profound neurological difference, and it explains why so many women over 45 feel like their emotional regulation has fundamentally changed, that they've become a different person, more reactive, more anxious, less able to copy. You haven't changed. Your neurochemistry has. And the driver is hormonal. Sign number 4, your joints ache in the morning, especially your hands, knees, and hips. Most women over 45 are told this is arthritis beginning. Sometimes that's true, but in a very significant percentage of cases, morning joint pain that emerged alongside other hormonal symptoms has a different cause entirely. This hormone plays a direct anti-inflammatory role in synovial tissue, the tissue that lines your joints and produces the fluid that keeps them moving smoothly. When levels drop, synovial inflammation increases. The result is stiffness, aching, and swelling that is worse first thing in the morning because overnight, without movement, inflammatory compounds accumulate in the joint space. The key distinguishing feature here is the morning pattern. Arthritis pain tends to be fairly consistent throughout the day. Hormonally driven joint inflammation tends to be worst within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking, then gradually improve as you move and as your body's cortisol rhythm kicks in. If your joint pain follows that morning heavy pattern and emerges at the same time as other symptoms on this list, hormonal deficiency is likely playing a central role. Sign number 5, your memory and word recall have noticeably declined. You reach for a word and it isn't there. You walk into a room and forget why. You lose your train of thought mid-sentence in a way that genuinely frightens you. This is one of the most distressing symptoms for women in perimenopause and postmenopause, and it is almost universally under-discussed in standard medical care. The hormone in question is critically involved in hippocampal neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form, consolidate, and retrieve memories. It directly stimulates the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially fertilizer for your neurons. When levels drop, BDNF production falls, hippocampal volume measurably decreases, and memory function declines. Dr. Lisa Mosconi at Weill Cornell Medicine has published extensive neuroimaging research showing that these brain changes are not inevitable consequences of aging, they are specific consequences of hormonal decline. And critically, her research shows they are partially reversible when the deficiency is addressed early enough. That word early matters. The sooner you identify and address this deficiency, the better the neurological outcome. This is not something to wait on. Now, before I reveal exactly which hormone is responsible for all 5 of these signs and the 3 specific steps to address it, I want to make sure you fully understand why standard blood panels miss this so consistently. Because this is the piece that frustrates me most about conventional medicine's approach to women's hormonal health over 45. The testing gap is enormous, and it's not complicated to close, but it requires knowing what to ask for. Most standard panels measure total hormone levels in the blood. Total estrogen, total testosterone, TSH for the thyroid, but total levels are only part of the story. What matters equally and sometimes more is how your cells are actually responding to those hormones. And that requires a different kind of testing that most general practitioners simply do not order. I want you to understand this clearly before we move forward, because when I give you the 3 action steps at the end of this video, one of them involves a specific conversation with your doctor, and you need to walk in knowing exactly what to ask for. That knowledge is what changes the outcome. So what is this hormone? The hidden deficiency affecting an estimated 91% of women over 45 is progesterone, specifically bioavailable progesterone, the fraction of progesterone that your cells can actually use. Now, many of you have heard of progesterone. You know it declines in perimenopause. But here is what most women and many doctors don't fully appreciate. Progesterone begins declining significantly as early as the mid-30s, often 10 to 15 years before menopause. And it declines faster and falls lower than estrogen does. By the time a woman is 45, her progesterone levels may be 75% lower than they were at 30. Her estrogen levels at 45 may still be relatively close to what they were. This creates what researchers call estrogen dominance, not because estrogen is actually high, but because progesterone has fallen so far that the estrogen to progesterone ratio is profoundly imbalanced. And that imbalance drives almost every symptom we've discussed today. The GABA suppression behind the anxiety. Progesterone's metabolite allopregnanolone is one of the most potent natural GABA modulators in the body. When progesterone falls, allopregnanolone falls. The GABA brake fails. The sleep architecture disruption, progesterone directly promotes slow-wave sleep through its action on GABA-A receptors in the brain. Low progesterone, poor deep sleep. The mathematics are that direct. The abdominal weight gain progesterone counterbalances estrogen's fat storage signaling in adipose tissue. Without adequate progesterone, estrogen-driven fat storage runs unopposed. The joint inflammation, progesterone modulates the inflammatory response in synovial tissue. Low progesterone means unchecked synovial inflammation. The memory decline, progesterone stimulates BDNF and supports hippocampal neurogenesis. Its loss accelerates the very brain changes that drive cognitive decline in midlife women. 1 hormone, 5 symptoms, affecting 9 inches, 10 women over 45, and almost never identified on the standard blood panel. Now here is what you do about it. When you see your doctor, do not ask for a standard hormone panel. Ask specifically for a serum progesterone test drawn on day 19 to 21 of your cycle if you are still cycling. If you are postmenopausal, ask for a fasting morning progesterone alongside a full estrogen panel, including estradiol, estrone, and estriol. Ask your doctor to calculate your estrogen to progesterone ratio, not just look at absolute numbers. Optimal progesterone in a cycling woman at day 21 should be above 10 nanograms per milliliter. Many labs flag results as normal at levels of 2 or 3. That flagging is outdated. The research on symptomatic women consistently shows that functional symptoms begin when levels drop below 7 to 8 nanograms per milliliter. There is a difference between not dangerously low and optimal for how you feel. Write those numbers down. Take them into your appointment. Ask where you fall on that scale, not just whether your result is in the flagged normal range. Step 2. Address the dietary drivers of progesterone decline. Several dietary patterns directly suppress progesterone production and accelerate its decline. The 3 most significant are chronic undereating, particularly protein restriction, high intake of refined carbohydrates and seed oils, which drive the inflammatory pathways that compete with progesterone synthesis, and excess alcohol, which directly impairs the enzymatic conversion of cholesterol to progesterone in the adrenal glands. Conversely, the research consistently shows that adequate dietary fat, particularly from whole food sources like eggs, olive oil, avocado, and fatty fish, supports steroidogenesis, the process by which your body manufactures progesterone from cholesterol. This is not the time for a very low-fat diet. Fat is the raw material your hormone system runs on. Zinc, vitamin B6, and magnesium glycinate are the three micronutrients most consistently associated with progesterone production in peer-reviewed research. A 2023 paper in the European Journal of Nutrition found that magnesium supplementation at 300 milligrams per day was associated with a significant improvement in progesterone to estrogen ratio in perimenopausal women over a Ain-Twe-Wake period. These are accessible, inexpensive interventions. They belong in the conversation. Step 3, reduce the cortisol load that is suppressing your progesterone. This is the step most people skip, and it may be the most critical. Cortisol and progesterone are synthesized from the same precursor, pregnenolone. When your body is under chronic stress, physical, psychological, or metabolic, it preferentially shunts pregnenolone toward cortisol production. This is called the pregnenolone steal, and it is one of the primary mechanisms by which modern life accelerates progesterone decline in women over 40. Chronic sleep deprivation, blood sugar dysregulation, overexercise without adequate recovery, chronic psychological stress. All of these conditions elevate cortisol demand, and all of them steal from your progesterone supply. This is why the three-part foundation, stable blood sugar, adequate sleep, and managed stress load, is not optional wellness advice. It is the biochemical prerequisite for hormonal recovery. Address the cortisol burden and you remove the single biggest drain on your progesterone production. If everything I've described today resonates with you, the fatigue, the sleep problems, the anxiety, the weight that won't move, the brain fog, the joint pain, I want you to take one action before you close this video. Write down these 5 symptoms. Write down the name progesterone deficiency. Write down the 3 things you're going to do this week. Get the right test ordered, look at your dietary fat and micronutrient intake, and identify the biggest cortisol driver in your daily life. That's it. 3 things. 1 week. The information is now in your hands. If this video helped you understand something that years of doctor visits didn't explain, please subscribe to this channel. I publish new research-based longevity and hormonal health content every single day. And leave a comment below. Tell me how many of these 5 signs you recognize in yourself. I read every comment, and your responses genuinely shape what I cover next. For a deeper dive, I've put together a free PDF guide, the 7-Day Hormonal Reset Protocol, that outlines the exact dietary supplement and lifestyle steps drawn from the research I've referenced today. The link is in the description. It's completely free. No catches. And if you want to go one level deeper right now, watch the video coming up on screen next. It covers the single worst food for women's hormonal health after 45. A food that is actively marketed as healthy that most women eat daily, and that the latest research shows directly suppresses progesterone production and drives estrogen dominance. That video is 12 minutes, and it will change how you think about your breakfast. I'll see you there.